Hey everybody, Mags here. We are going to review some of the hints and tips that we've been given this year on the Dynasty Hot Seat. If you are new here, do me a favor, can you like, comment, share on this video for me, please, like you can see here. And then also, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button too? It really helps out. Right, on to the hints and tips.
Sure. I tried to think back to when I started playing Dynasty and what would maybe help new Dynasty players. And these things would certainly help anybody that's playing Dynasty. But the first one is just be active. I remember when I first started playing Dynasty and fantasy football, I was always the most active member in my leagues. I was the one initiating the trade talks, sending the trade offers. I mean, I felt like I even had rosters memorized. If you told me a player, I knew exactly which roster that player was on or who had that player. And you know, over time, some of that has changed. Certainly when you add more leagues, that becomes difficult. But just the idea of being active, both in your Dynasty leagues and kind of big picture, whether it's on Twitter or even just following the news, you know, keeping up with what's happening, player movement and things like that, because all of those things impact player value in Dynasty. And yeah, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
No, I was about to say I completely agree with that. You know, you gotta put the time and you gotta put the work in, especially in Dynasty. You know, you got no off season there, so it's 24/7. You know, you just gotta keep going and keep looking. And those little like advantages, you know, might not seem like a lot at the time, but if you kind of accumulate them up, you know, over a full season or a couple of seasons, then yeah, it's going to make a huge difference to your team. So I think that is, you know, great first advice is be active and stay on the ball with it. So yeah, I really like that. That is the first tip. So what you got first for tip number 2?
Sure. It kind of plays into that one. I mentioned player value, just to understand player value. And it can be different. You know, every league is kind of its own market, its own economy, really. But in general, understand player value in Dynasty. Obviously, that's impacted by league rules and settings. If you're in a super flex league, a tight end premium league, a league with points per carry, or certainly an IDP league would shift all of those values. But having that big picture understanding of what players are worth, positions, you know, compared to one another, I think that's just huge, you know, especially like I mentioned earlier, especially for new Dynasty players. I remember quite a few deals in my first couple of leagues that I made that I wish I could have back, because I didn't understand how much wide receivers were worth in these leagues. And I was giving away wide receivers because, you know, I just had to have those running backs. And in that specific league, running backs didn't have quite the same value. You didn't have to start as many, only had to start one. So that was kind of a hard lesson to learn in that specific example.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just, you gotta read. I've mentioned it a few times, you know, I'm a primary school teacher, elementary school teacher by my daytime kind of job. And, you know, I say to my kids all the time, it's like, hey, you gotta read the question. Like you can't just go around answering the wrong thing. And it's the same with the league. You gotta read the rules. You gotta read the question before you start buying anything or doing anything. It's like, make sure you're doing the right thing before you dive in head first.
Well, we have that in common. I teach elementary school as well. So
no way.
Dynasty,
cool.
Yeah. Dynasty and teaching the little kids, we have that in common. But as far as that player value, you know, there's lots of ways to do it. Of course, checking ADP or checking rankings at DLF or whatever your favorite Dynasty site might be. Those are pretty easy ways. There's lots of Dynasty trade tools out there now. We have one that we're pretty proud of. And again, other sites do as well that are all very good and very useful. But really, before you start making trades, whether you're a brand new player or just an established Dynasty player that maybe has an itchy trigger finger, you know, check the value, make sure you have a good understanding of what that really is before you make those moves.
Yeah, or even if you have like, you know, I've usually got like a go-to friend that I'll like just like text a
Yeah.
screenshot of is like, what do you think about this? Like just making sure that, you know, I'm not missing something really, really obvious. And yeah, just having a bit of a safety net there with, you know, stuff over at DLF or anywhere else. So just a friend that can double check things for you as long as you're not making the trade with them, they'll maybe try and tell you it's a great deal then when it's not.
Well, I love that you mentioned that. That's a perfect segue into my final tip here. My final point is building those relationships within your league. And I think that's so huge for different reasons. It's certainly going to help you when it comes time to talk trade. If you're in that rookie draft and you want to move up a couple spots, or you need to move down, having those relationships, hopefully with everybody in the league, is going to be so beneficial. But the other thing, I mean, specifically that has come out of this for me, and I know so many others, is just building those real friendships, right? I mean, some of my greatest friends now came from playing in leagues with them, right? That was the first step. And we talk trade, we're talking about, you know, the upcoming draft or whatever it might be in the league, and a friendship came out of that. So having those relationships in your league is so huge. You find that one person like you're talking about that's kind of your trade buddy. You run everything by that person. You know, I've got a couple of those, fortunately, myself. And you know, just having that sounding board is so huge in Dynasty. You don't have to play Dynasty alone.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And, you know, something that, you know, here over in the UK, obviously we're on base, we're kind of building on that as well. And we're having our first ever sort of like fantasy football, you know, fans collective gathering happening this summer in the UK. So that'll be absolutely amazing to help with that and building that community. And, you know, for anyone listening, if you've not already got a ticket, make sure you get a ticket for that. That's going to be a brilliant event. I think there are some still available. So yeah, I can't wait to continue doing, you know, as you said, build that community and get those like real proper friendships, which is just so amazing about this game. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Remember, like this video, leave a comment if you want, and subscribe to the channel. These videos are going to be coming thick and fast, so you don't want to miss anything. So that's it for today. In the meantime, keep yourselves, keep your teams lit. We'll see you next time.